And one of the things with Enterprise is specifically Chris Hayes. There had been a conversation that was recorded where he was saying at the very end of this, prior to me getting arrested and me, all that bullshit in California, he had said, "We'll call roadside." But they had also said, Lacey Branch and corporate had said, "Call car sales," and that's what I did. I called car sales. Now, clearly, their mistake was identified by car sales. When I called car sales and I brought that vehicle physically to their locations, correct? You see? And so they got caught in the moment where they're saying car sales is a different company. They don't know what they're doing. But they, at Rental in Washington State, were the ones who referred me to car sales. Now, car sales says, big asterisk, big circle, they should not be renting the car damaged, number one. Number two, they said, they were on the fence, but they had said that they could sell me that car. And they needed to switch me into a different unit while that car got fixed and priced, etc., to see if they could sell it. But they said they could sell it. So, but the point is, Chris Hayes catches himself, and Enterprise Washington State catches themselves where they're saying that's a different company when they're talking about car sales, even though they were the ones, if that makes sense, who referred me to this quote-unquote different company, Enterprise Car Sales versus Rental. Now, specifically in the Pacific Northwest region, Corporate Enterprise Holdings, we're talking about Chris Hayes, Catherine D. Nino Roach, and Troy Klimo, and William Lentz was the branch manager from Lacey, who has since shifted. Now, recently I visited Lacey Washington Enterprise, and it looks like a complete different slate of staff members. Not even a full year has elapsed. They clearly have internal problems if they cannot retain staff, beyond a year there. And in addition to the numerous negative reviews online for that specific branch, but also the broader national company of Enterprise. But specifically, what I'm trying to highlight here in this short video log is the fact that the Pacific Northwest, Washington State, and Alaska corporate regional management of the individuals I just identified, Catherine D. Nino Roach, Chris Hayes, Troy Klimo, have been basically caught where they're doing things that are fraudulent. They're renting cars without valid stickers. Clients are saying, hey, we're running into issues with this. We need assistance with this. And they are refusing to coordinate to switch out into a different unit, which has been identified as inconsistent with Enterprise's standards and policies. And that's the people who work at that 1-800 number in St. Louis, Missouri, as well as numerous other branches in Oregon, California, and other places, have all concurred, aka agreed, that these are diversions of Enterprise standards. Whereas, if this car doesn't have a sticker on it, we need to switch that car out. You need to call, you need to coordinate to do that. The other issue is, if this car, if there's damage on that car and that client tells you about it, he brings you in, you got to switch the car out when it happens. That's how it's done with Enterprise. And you need to file a damage report, incident report for Enterprise when that happens. They didn't do it with that unit. And they kept renting a damaged car, and it gets into where Enterprise is caught with millions of bad reviews online where they're renting damaged units, not switching them out. They're getting damage claims pinned on the wrong clients in some instances. In other instances, they're fraudulently reported cars as stolen just because they are in conflict with a client and they want to lash out against that client, and thus abusing the legal system and the public safety people's valuable time and misrepresenting things to law enforcement and committing fraud. But also committing fraud for the car, because the car shows up in their system as a car that's not damaged, but the truth is the car is damaged, so that they should have been pulling it from the fleet, fixing it, re-renting it, or pulling it from the fleet, fixing it, wholesale, selling it. But regardless, fixing it when the damage happens. And the reason is because it's a brand standard. There's multiple different reasons, and this was explained to me by Enterprise staff in California, as well as at that 1-800 St. Louis number. But the reasons are, number one, brand standard. The cars are supposed to look good. The cars are supposed to be intact. If you're driving a car around that's crumpled and it's damaged, that's not the same aesthetic experience. It's going into a hotel that's got a damaged wall versus one that is completely fine with no damage on it. And those are different experiences you're paying for. You know what I mean? The safety issue is a real big one. The safety issue, we're talking about a car with $5,000 of damage is what I was quoted. And, from a tree limb at a campground where a tree was blown over in the wind, it crashed into the car and it damaged the car significantly. Now, and I actually got a concussion. I was tented in the campground right next to the thing, and lucky I didn't die. The car kind of saved me, but it was a huge tree, blew over in the wind supposedly, though I was suspicious. And this is the other thing, I'm suspicious that something else might have happened there, and it looks just sketchy with Enterprise, especially in light of the fact that in California, when they quote-unquote report this car is stolen, how Enterprise is kind of sneaking around and doing shit, were they just sneaking around doing shit, and did they try to kill their client up here in Washington State? Do we have to have a criminal lawsuit for attempted murder looking at Troy Climo, William Lentz, Mateo Sark, whatever his name was, Kathleen Denito Roach, as well as Chris Hayes? These guys are people who aren't American. That's the other thing. Just going to their branch, and the Sergio guy looks like he could have just, I don't know what country he's from, but none of the staff there even knew the basics with regard to Enterprise. They didn't know, they could not produce a rental agreement number. The damage recovery out of St. Louis had requested me to have that data, and they could not, all they said is call the 1-800 number. Well, I call the 1-800 number, and the 1-800 number refers me to their corporate management. Their corporate management of Troy Climo and Chris Hayes and Kathleen Denito Roach are unresponsive, and we're unresponsive leading up to this shit too. So the fact that they are out to lunch, aka not doing their job correctly, is an issue for the broader national company of Enterprise that I, as a client, am not responsible for having to fix and resolve. I did everything that I could in the time to communicate the issues, and right when the incident had happened, back in October, with the tree and the damage on the tree, A, it was communicated to my insurance company with photos and video and documentation. B, that insurance company was CC'd with the branch manager and 2 other staff members from the branch I got it out of, multiple employees at that branch who all seem to be gone by now. Not even a year has elapsed, and they're all gone. So clearly they're doing things wrong if there's that kind of a turnover rate. And then the car was physically brought, as well as having the paper documentation of letting them know about that, to their thing, and they said I could stay in the car, and they kept renting the car and collecting money on the car in a fraudulent way, because that car was damaged, and that car was a car that they were representing as not damaged in their system, and it probably should not have been rented for those months. Clearly should have got fixed before it got rented again after that incident, but more importantly, it should not have been rented for those months without having been fixed first. But honestly, it probably should have got wholesale sold at that time. Now, Chris Hayes on the phone, I've got it recorded, says, well, car sales is a different company, they don't know what they're talking about. Well, then why did your branch manager and why did your staff refer me to car sales? And that's why I talked to them, because you told me to talk to them about that. And they seem to think that it was clear error on Pacific Northwest branch to be renting the damaged car. And multiple car sales says this from Enterprise. And they all said, that's not how Enterprise, rental car sales, whatever, Enterprise, the big national umbrella company, works. They don't do it that way. So these guys have basically been caught doing something wrong. They referred me to car sales. I went and talked to car sales. Car sales says, well, they're doing shit wrong. So here we are pointing out that they're doing stuff wrong. And now they're saying, well, why don't you call roadside? Well, you know what? What if I had called roadside? And I did call roadside, but what if I called roadside? Roadside said, hey, they're doing shit. And then what are we going to say? Well, that's what they did say. They said, you got to drive it yourself all the way back to Washington State from California, Southern California, in 2 days, or we're changing your contract. This is from William Lentz, branch manager. Now, that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, for a paying client to have to, at his own time and expense, turn around and drive 3 states in 2 days at his own time and expense for a car he's renting to return to the specific branch he got it out of, just so they can cover their ass and cover their tracks where they messed up and criminally misrepresented this shit on this car, being undamaged where they knew it was damaged. And when I go to return it, aka switch it out, etc., in California, they all are saying, we can't take that car back. So in other words, this car was returned to them, but they refused to take it back. And that's the essence of this issue with this fraudulent and bullshit-filled company of Enterprise, where they said, hey, we want that car back. The car was brought to them not once, but dozens of times. They didn't take it back. They couldn't coordinate. Phone numbers for the branches down there, LA, Santa Barbara, I've got a record of it via email, sending it to William Lentz. They didn't call down there. They didn't do it. They refused to update the incident damage report stuff that was required as well. So, here we are months later filing the lawsuit against them, and what we see and what we have is a company with poorly trained staff. Now, who does that go on? Kathleen Denino Roche, who's quote-unquote called Katie by this Sergio guy who was a Latina guy, I believe, who did not look like he was properly trained in his job. And obviously, as well as the other staff said, we didn't even know, we don't know the rental agreement number. And this is me showing up to their location at the request of Damage Recovery in St. Louis, their own company, which is asking me to produce the rental agreement number from that time. I believe I have it on my email, but I was asked and I went back to get it. I also went back to get it to show that I've been charged twice in 1 week in January by their company fraudulently. Perhaps it was an error. It looked like it was a fraudulent transaction. That's what my bank had said. And I went there and I mentioned on the phone earlier, and then they said, well, and Sergio said, as well as the others at that branch today, said, well, your point of contact for that is the 1-800 number or contact corporate in Washington. Well, I've done those things. They haven't done anything in terms of, what they've done is they've tried to steal from me. What they've done is they've tried to lie to law enforcement and say the car was stolen where they knew it wasn't, where they knew the client had a car that was with an invalid sticker that was invalid for months in terms of the registration on the car. It was outdated for months. And also, the more important overarching issue, which I feel like was more important, was the lack of an incident damage report and the fact that that car was not switched out when the incident happened, as per Enterprise's policy. And what that did was not something that really bothered the client, but what that did was create tremendous problems for the client when he went to return it, where all the other branches were like, no, we can't take this car back because of the fact there hasn't been an incident damage report on it. And I said, well, I CC'd them on the email with my insurance. I sent the email and I brought the car to them right when it happened, when the damage happened in October. I have a record of it. They didn't do that. That's their error. And that's what we have here. We have employee error out of Washington State. But more importantly, I just think it's really important to highlight before I let this go is that Chris Hayes wants to say, well, car sales is a different company. Well, then why did they tell me to go to car sales? When I went to car sales says rental messed up. And he says, well, why don't you call it roadside? Well, I called it roadside, and roadside, everyone says rental messed up. So, rental messed up, and that's what happened here. But more specifically, instead of just owning the mistakes as they were identified, in terms of Chris Hayes, in terms of Troy Climo, Catherine Danino Roach, and William Lentz, what they did is they colluded on a felony level. They tampered with this data to continue to misrepresent it instead of updating the file, instead of calling down there and helping the client, assist the client in switching out the car. And they committed multiple felonies by misrepresenting this data within the enterprise system as something that it was not. Now, my emails with them clearly showcase the fact that they were briefed on the incident and the damage to the car right when it happened. They were CC'd with the insurance company, and the insurance company never got anything from them. With regard to that. Now, in addition, the car was physically brought to their location. They saw the damage on it, and they left me in the damaged car, and they kept renting a damaged car and representing the system as a car that was not damaged. Now, that was fraudulent on their part, and it was not a simple mistake. And if it was a simple mistake, when the issue was brought up and they were asked to update that file and it was re-forwarded to them, they were supposed to have done something about that, and they didn't do it. So this is the essence of the issues here, is rather than just when the stuff was pointed out, they compounded their errors, and they committed multiple felonies and fraud, tampering, and colluding to continue to misrepresent this stuff to take less of a loss is what it looked like, because they really technically were supposed to pull that car from the fleet when the incident happened, either fix it, re-rent it, or fix it and wholesale sell it. The fact that they didn't do that, and they want to say, well, car sales is a different company. Well, all of the branches in Oregon and California and other states are not different companies. Maybe they're under different umbrella regional management, but they're all saying that Washington State messed up. And as well as the 1-800 number, and we've got it recorded multiple times, multiple different people are all concluding that A, they should have switched the car out because of the sticker, or B, they should have switched the car out and they forced to switch out because of that damage on that car. So the fact that they weren't doing those things out of Washington State, we're not helping coordinate that, that is inconsistent with the brand, the standard, and the contract of Enterprise. And what they did is they created the scenario and are responsible for creating the scenario with the client left in the car, unable to switch out of the car because of the issue with the lack of a damage report, and basically not even supposed to be driving the car because of the issue of it would be illegally because the sticker was not up to date and valid in registration, if that makes sense. So I just wanted to wrap it up, but where I'm at here on it looks like it's September 6th. We just stopped at that Lacey branch. We asked for the rental agreement number. They refused. We have the paperwork to file a lawsuit against that company. We have emailed multiple times to the damage recovery unit, and as well as Troy Climo, Chris Hayes, and Catherine Danino Roach. They are unresponsive. They are not properly, as they are paid to do their job. They have not properly done their job, and they have diverged in a criminal way from the Enterprise brand, and they have misrepresented data around this unit and this rental within the Enterprise company in a way that is fraudulent and criminal. And I believe that these people, and the point is, though, it was pointed out and they didn't fix it, and so they compounded their errors, and that's really what I want to underline a circle here with Lacey, Washington, Enterprise rental car. Thank you.